Stan, you look like you are lounging right now. I have
I
never
am
seen.
lounging because I'm sitting on my bed. I'll actually try to sit up a little.
No, don't.
No. I like where you were. That was fun. Yeah, yes. It's exactly the way I envisioned you.
Hold on. I got the same color shirt. I'm gonna just rock with Stan right now. There we go.
You know what? It just dawned on me, and I'm sorry it took me this long. But Stan, you and Mikey A are like kindred spirits. I mean, you guys would be best friends. I promise you.
Love it.
You could see why, right?
Absolutely.
Stan, we can go take a rascal around and get a bite to eat someday.
There you go. I like that idea.
God. Stan, thank you for doing this, man.
Sure, no problem.
Oh, God. All right, so at the end, Mike's going to ask you some poll questions from our show, from the Levitard show, because there's some funny ones for you.
All right,
give me 1 sec here.
Hey, where did your daughter end up going to college?
So she's going to Northwestern.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I remember that time we did the show from LA, you were out there looking at schools.
I was looking at USC.
Yeah.
She had and they recruited her. Syracuse recruited her.
So she's playing lacrosse at Northwestern.
Yeah, she got a scholarship offer to Northwestern. She gave her verbal. They can't sign yet.
Right.
She'll sign her senior year, and she's super excited. They've won 7 national championships since 2004, so it's like,
wow.
And Stan, listen, you know me well enough to know no one in my family is getting to Northwestern without some sort of athletic ability.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's great. That's a great place too. It's really nice up there. So
yeah, we're super excited.
Playing some cold weather though, for a Miami girl, she's gonna have to.
I know, but
adjustment.
they're flush with cash, as you know, and they have this beautiful indoor facility. So they have an indoor-outdoor field.
Yeah, it's nice.
So, my daughter's like, she's like, how many games do we play indoors and outdoors? They're like, most of them.
Play them all indoors.
play them all indoors. Yeah, but we're super excited, Stan.
That's great.
We are laughing. Stan, first off, I want to ask you, is this the first interview you've done? Like, because Levitard and I are laughing that I am getting the exclusive here on Stupodity.
I know Dan was actually crap about that yesterday, that the Stan exclusive went to Stupodity. I haven't done, I've done no media whatsoever, not just interviews like this. I haven't even talked to the beat writers or anybody else. So, but you and I had talked about doing this before I got fired.
Right.
So,
yes.
And
so you honored that commitment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But also we have a previous relationship and the whole thing. So, but with everybody else, I've just declined. Even the people who only want to talk about like the NBA playoffs and stuff, I just sort of want to be away from the media for the most part right now.
Well, you kind of are still. I mean, it's Stupodity, but I want that's the beauty of what I've carved out for myself. Stan cackling in his bed right now. There is few things better than watching Stan Van Gundy cackling.
I would say that's probably true, though. Nobody's ever going to confuse you for a journalist. So.
But we are laughing that you have granted the exclusive to a man whose logo, a podcast whose logo is of a man sitting on a toilet, Stan.
Well, I'm well aware because you, when the first time I was on, you gave me a framed Stupodity, which I have. It's actually in my home in Florida. So I'm well aware of the logo. Yeah.
Does it have a prominent place in that home or not?
It sure does.
I'm
Up
so
where
happy.
I would normally sit and do interviews like this. Yeah.
All right, so let me be a journalist for just a second, and then we'll get to some NBA and some baseball stuff, and then Mike's got some poll questions for you. So I just want to go back a couple of weeks, because you're right. I had you booked on the podcast, and you were going to come on, and then you sent me a text, and you and I have known each other long enough where I kind of had a feeling what that text meant and where it was headed and what was going on. But Stan, 1 year, like how surprised were you to get that call after just coaching the Pelicans for 1 year?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. I mean, because, not only only 1 year, but it was 4 weeks after the end of the season. And so, normally if that stuff's going to happen, it's going to happen pretty quickly at the end of the year, and it didn't. So, yeah, I was surprised. And the day it happened, I was sort of taken aback.
David Griffin made it sound like this was a we decision, that we agonized over this decision. That's the way it came out, at least from where we were sitting. Is there truth to that? Was this a joint decision? Stan, I know you. You wanted to keep coaching this team in particular.
Well, but I would say it was joint in this sense that, I think you can understand this. I don't want to be somewhere where they don't want me.
Right.
And they didn't want me. And so I wasn't at that point gonna fight to try to stay there. So it wasn't a mutual decision. It was funny when I left Detroit, my owner there, who I really liked, Tom Gores, also said it was a mutual decision. And I said, yeah, Tom asked me to leave. And so I left. I guess that's that's mutual. And, this is the same thing, but it was clear, I think in our postseason meetings here in New Orleans that, it's fair to say that we were just, and I don't want to get into a lot of the details of it, but we just weren't on the same page at all about, what coaching is all about and how coaches should be judged and everything else. We just look at coaching totally differently. And that became clear, probably a little bit during the season, but certainly after the season. We're just on two totally different pages. And, who's right, who's wrong would be up to anybody's individual perspective, but we certainly did not see things the same way.
Stan, I'm wondering here. Mike, go ahead and ask that question if you want. But I am wondering here. So hold on one second, Mikey. I am wondering if you've texted the Pistons owner since Reggie Jackson has gone on this ridiculous postseason run and say, hey, I was fucking right about Reggie. I told you this kid was good.
Well, but here's the thing, too. I mean, people in Detroit ended up really souring on Reggie. But if you look back on his time there, his first full year with us, we traded for him in the 14-15 season, right around the trade deadline. His first full season, 15-16, he was tremendous. We won 44 games.
Yeah.
Got a lot better, and he was I think, second leading fourth quarter scorer in the league. I mean, he was unbelievable. And then even over the next 2 years, we were good. I mean, we were above 500 when Reggie was healthy. The problem was, he wasn't healthy very much. And when he went down our last year in Detroit, he went down. He was playing great to start the year. We were probably 30 some games into the year, and we were fourth in the East at that point, and he went down. Our problem was we just never figured out over the time or added the people to the roster or whatever we needed to do to be able to play successfully without him. But he played very well for us in Detroit. But suffered some bad injuries, and it's great to see him back healthy and doing what he had a really good year for him, but what he's doing in the playoffs is tremendous. And he's making himself, a lot of money in this playoff run for a guy who is basically on a minimum after the buyout in Detroit. I would think he's going to sign for really good money.
Yeah, he probably should. He's making just over $500,000. Mikey, yeah, go ahead. You have a better chance of Stan answering this question than I do. Okay? You ask it, and listen, because he loves you. I'm telling you, he loves you. He might just answer this. So go ahead.
Listen, we're kindred spirits, but I got to ask. The reports are out there that Zion's family was part of the reason that you were let go. How much did they have to do with that? And was that anything there?
I don't know anything about that. In my mind, I liked coaching Zion. I had a good relationship with him. I had no problem. And I think we, elevated his platform that we gave him. We put him in different situations, had him handling the ball a lot, playing a lot of point guard. I thought we did some good things with him. If they were unhappy, I didn't hear about it. Zion never, I mean, Zion was unhappy with us not winning more games. But Zion never expressed to me any of that. That doesn't mean he wasn't unhappy. And I don't know. I mean, it's possible, that they were unhappy with me, and that was part of what led to the change. I hate it when it gets put on players, that players are getting coaches fired and things like that. I think that makes players look bad, and I don't think it's fair. Players certainly have the right to express their opinion to people and things like that, but front offices and owners make decisions, and they're the ones that decide to fire people, and that shouldn't ever be placed on players. And I know this, regardless of what happened in that regard, Zion's no coach killer. I mean, he's a guy that's going to help you win a lot of games. He plays the game the right way. One of the things I'll miss is, the opportunity to continue to coach him, because he's so unique in the way that he plays the game and the things that he can do that, it really gets your mind spinning as a coach, and you have a lot of possibilities in what you can do with him. And that was fun to explore. So I'm happy with what we did with Zion. I think we helped him. How anybody else felt about that would be up to them.
Stan, what's the ceiling for Zion? What's his ceiling?
Yeah, you know what? I think when you have players that good, you don't even try to put a ceiling on them.
Right.
I think he's going to become a good shooter. I really do. I watched him work every day after practice with Fred Vinson, one of our assistants, and Fred's a great shooting coach. And Zion was making a lot of progress. I think the key is he getting in the gym with Fred in the off season? Because quite honestly, he has never made those kind of strides with other people working with him. So, but if he'll spend the time with Fred, I think he'll make the leap as a shooter. I think he'll shoot 75% or so from the free throw line. And as much as he gets to the line, that's big. And I think eventually he'll be able to shoot the three. But one of the things he and I had talked about is he really, even more than shooting the three, he needs to just have a shot in the lane where he doesn't get all the way to the rim, a little floater and stuff, because, the guy, what he does, he's a great finisher, but damn, I mean, he's going all the way to the rim and challenging people on every possession. And not only is that hard to do, it wears you down physically, and he just gets a crap beat out of him. I mean, the guy gets hit. I mean, he's broken fingers on both hands. I mean, they're just wailing on him. He needs something to make the game a little bit easier on himself. And I think he realizes that. I just think over the next 5, 6, 7 years, this guy's going to have incredible growth. Now, where he really needs to make progress, if he wants to win, is at the defensive end. I mean, I think he's aware of that. And he just has to get a lot better there. He struggled at the defensive end of the floor. If he can make strides at that end, that's even more important to me than the shooting. But look, we had a very poor shooting team around Zion. I mean, we only had 2 guys who could really shoot the three, Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball. So Zion's out there with not much shooting, and the defense packed in, loaded up to him, and he still averaged 27 points on 61% shooting. I mean, he's just a phenomenal talent. He's got great competitiveness, and you literally cannot keep him from getting to the rim. There's just no way to play him to keep him from getting to the rim, even when that's where he's going every time.
Stan, I got to tell you, you have to spend the rest of your retirement in that bed, in that exact position. It's making me smile. I feel like there's a plate of food headed your way, like room service or something like that. Why move again, Stan?
Get a bell in a bedpan.
It's unbelievable.
My wife does a lot for me, but she's not delivering food up here.
No. I didn't suggest that she was going to do that. It just feels like the way I'm seeing this is you're in a hotel and someone's going to be knocking on the door like any minute with 4 scrambled eggs with cheese, some onions, a little.
That would be great. But no, I'm still in New Orleans right now. We're heading out of here on Friday, so I got a couple more days in New Orleans, and this is.
You had to love the food there, Stan. You had to love the food in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and it was strange year, as we all know, with COVID, so nothing was really open. Everything was just takeout all year. Now it's just starting to open up as we're on our way out the door.
I'm not certain it should be, though. Dan and I were discussing that Deer District does not look safe, Stan.
No, there's a lot of questionable places. The food is tremendous. I mean, like we're watching the other night. My son he's visiting us, and he likes to watch those cooking shows. And so we're watching Master Chef, and I'm going, okay, there's Aaron Sanchez. He's got a place here. His restaurant's here. And there's Emeril Lagasse, and he's got a place here. I mean, it's just, the food is fantastic.
By the way, you mentioned defense and Zion. I think I know the problem here. Okay. Stan, you guys were too good. This is an offensive league now.
He doesn't.
No. You guys were one of the best teams defensively after the All-Star break. Stan, you were making them work too hard. I mean,
well, that was, that may be part of it. I mean, we were on them hard, and we were next to last in the league defensively before the All-Star break, and 7th after the break. And so, one of the things that surprised me about being let go is I think we had 7 guys that had come back from the previous year. And by all the advanced numbers and that everybody uses, all of those 7 guys got better, most of them appreciably so. We really improved defensively over the course of the year, even with a roster with very limited shooting. We were 11th in the league in offensive efficiency. I mean, I just thought there was good progress going on. But, somebody else will now have to take it the next step. And there's a lot of good coaches out there. And I think this is still an attractive job because New Orleans is a great city. It's a young team, too young, quite honestly. Need to get older. That's one of the big problems. 2/3 of our points were scored by guys 23 and younger. I mean, it's just too much, but there's a lot of potential here, and you've got a generational talent at the core of it.
Who would Stan Van Gundy hire to replace Stan Van Gundy?
I don't know, but it was funny because one of the names that keeps getting mentioned as a finalist is Jock Vaughn. I love Jock, but Jock followed me in Orlando, so
right.
I'm like, Jock, make this one work because I'm not taking another one. I can't clear the path for you there. So I don't know who I think, quite honestly, if it were me, I'd stay in-house and go with like Fred Vinson because I worry about these young guys are now will be on their 3rd coach in 3 years. And for guys like Ingram, who came from LA, his 4th coach in 4 years, because he went from Luke Walton to Alvin Gentry to me. And I think that's hard for guys. I think it's hard for anybody if the system and everything, the terminology, all of that is changing a lot, but especially for young guys. And if you stick with a guy like Fred Vinson, he's been here even before Alvin Gentry, but he was with Alvin, so he knows what the players went through then. He was with me. He knows what the players went through then. And he doesn't have to redo everything. He can stay with some stuff that is familiar to guys to ease the transition while at the same time putting his own imprint on the team. Now, I will say, I think it's highly unlikely that David Griffin or Trajan Langdon will ask for my input on the company.
But if they do, make sure you're laying in that bed, okay?
It's highly unlikely, but for me, it makes sense. I think sometimes what front offices don't value enough is continuity and allowing guys to grow and understand, get comfortable in a system. And I think, here with all the young guys they have, I mean, I think it would help them a lot, but it's not my call.
Stan, that's puzzling to me. Do other organizations look at the Spurs and the Heat and say, "Hey, look what consistency bought them," continuity.
The Spurs, the Heat, the Jazz, I mean, it works,
Right.
And the Heat in particular, I think is a really, good model for people because while the Heat have had some great years, as they've had down years over the times too. And they've had years where they haven't made the playoffs in that run. In fact, before they went to the finals last year, they had missed the playoffs 3 of the previous 5 years, but they stay the course. And so you look at San Antonio and they're going to the playoffs 20 some straight years. You say, okay, well, yeah, but they've had that success. Well, the Heat has had ups and downs and stuck with it. And it works. And it works for a lot of reasons. I think, if you're trying to decide who to sign in free agency, who to trade for, who to draft, what our system's going to be, what our values are as an organization. It's easier to make that fit. Everybody wants to talk about culture all the time. Well, the Heat have built a culture for, I don't know. I mean, Pat got there 26, 27 years ago, and it's been the same culture. I mean, Eric Spoelstra's been there since day one, and come through. Pat's been there since day one. And so they're building on that culture all the time. And it is surprising that you could see that going on and similar stuff in San Antonio and similar stuff in Utah and not say, wow, that works. Like, people just ignore it and keep making changes all the time. It's hard to understand, but that's the way it is.
Wait, Stan, did you break news while laying comfortably in a bed? Because it's the way you should announce that you're not going to coach again. Did you say you're never going to coach again? This is it, Stan?
Well, you never say never, but I think, I'll be 62 years old and I've been lucky. I've had 4 jobs in this league and been at it for a long time. And I think it would be highly unlikely, on top of the fact that I really love my wife and I want to stay married. And I think another coaching job would leave me with a divorce. And I don't want that. So,
my wife would love if I coached.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're done. You never say never. I'll never use the word retirement because you just never know, like what could come up. I mean, they might put an expansion franchise in Lake Mary, Florida. New York has 2 teams. Why can't Central Florida have 2 teams where I could just walk to work and my wife wouldn't have to move or anything? So you never know. You never know.
I always thought I thought college. I know you've done it before, but I thought college, like a small college town, Stan Van Gundy. Like I could see you being a college coach. One more time, Stan.
Well, I'll tell you, it is, if I did it in college, I would want to do exactly what you said. I'd want to go the small college route. I wouldn't want any part of power conferences and the recruiting that goes with that and everything else. I mean, I've had a lot of great jobs. It's been an exciting career, but probably the most fun I've ever had coaching was my first head coaching job at Castleton State College in Vermont.
Of course, yes.
Those guys were playing simply because they loved to play. We had good teams. We won a lot, great people. I'm still in touch with virtually every one of those guys. I mean, a lot of it was we were the same age. I mean, I was only 24 years old when I took that job. But I've stayed in touch with those guys for, almost 40 years now. And it was great fun. And those levels are great. I remember Dick Bennett, great coach. And he'd been at Wisconsin, Green Bay, and won. And then he was at Wisconsin, went to the Final Four. And I remember talking to him. He succeeded me after they fired me at Wisconsin. And I always had a lot of respect for Dick. And I remember talking to him and asking him how it was going. And he said, you know what? I went one step too far in his career. Like at Green Bay, he said, I had one reporter I had to deal with. I didn't deal with the booster club. I just coached my team. And, you know, we're all sort of in the profession. You get competitive and your ego gets carried away and you always want the next level up, the next level up, the next challenge. But a lot of times when you look back, you think, boy, I probably would have been a lot happier had I just stayed where I was. So yeah, I like the small college level, and I know my wife and I have talked about it over the years. What would have happened if we would have just stayed there?
Right.
I mean, we would have starved for what they were paying me then. We literally would have starved.
You'd be several $1 million poorer, Stan.
Yeah, it's a lot. And so I don't regret anything. And it's been thrilling to go through this stuff in the NBA. But yeah, to me, those are great jobs. If you get a good small college job and live, like you said, in a nice small college town. I mean, raise your kids there. I mean,
the best.
Great existence. Yeah.
Stan, do you have like, I know you have to get out of here. You have like 7 more minutes because I just want to fly through some basketball stuff with you. Okay. Stan, I'm wondering, what are your thoughts here? Is the best team going to win the NBA title, or is the healthiest team going to win the NBA title?
The healthiest. I mean,
yeah.
It's always a factor, but this year has been beyond absurd in what we're dealing with. I don't think this playoffs has had or will have any indication of who the best team is. I mean, like, I'm really happy for Phoenix. I think they've done everything the right way. I'm happy for Chris Paul, playoff run. Monty Williams is a great coach and a great guy. But if you look, I mean, they play the Lakers and Anthony Davis is out, and then they get to play Denver without Jamal Murray. And then, you know, now they're playing the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard. And if you look at what's going on in the East, if Phoenix can win, they can go play the finals either against Milwaukee, maybe without Giannis, or Atlanta, maybe without Trae Young. I mean, like, you know, there's no asterisks by any title, but you would wonder, like, did Phoenix really have to go through the gauntlet to prove they were the best team, or did they just stay healthiest?
How much of that is because of the truncated offseason? How much of the injuries that we've seen?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think the shortened offseason, the shortened training camp, and not having the time before it. I mean, normally guys come back around Labor Day and they're spending time in the gym every day, getting in shape, playing. And then you've got that 3-week training camp with exhibition games and everything. This year, none of that pre-training camp time. Back in the gym, 2 weeks, and you're playing games. And so I think conditioning was not good. It wasn't. Guys were worn down a little bit, but not in great shape. And then the season was so compressed that no one had the practice time they were used to. So conditioning suffered. I mean, I just think players are not in as good a shape as they normally are. And that's led to a lot of the injuries, the combination of fatigue and the, you know, not having the conditioning to deal with it has not been good. But look, everybody, players, coaches, front offices, owners, everybody involved, the league office, we all knew what we were getting into. This was a money grab.
Right.
That's what it was. It was a money grab. And so everybody knew what the risks were, and we all signed up for it. So it's just what it is. I mean, it was the only way to keep the business afloat, and keeping the business afloat is important. And so I think Adam Silver and the league office knew it too, but what was the alternative? You know, the players didn't want to make half the money that they normally make, and everything else. We're already losing money because people aren't in the arenas. You had to do what you had to do to keep the business afloat And it's not just about the money everybody made, but keep the business out in front of the fans too. Having games on TV all the time, getting back to that. That's important for the business and the health of the league. And so the way I look at it is the players made a big sacrifice, but for their own greater good, and for the greater good of the league. It's just what it is. And so it's unfortunate, I think, that the playoffs, the most important time of the year, that, as Stu said, everything's just coming down to health. I think that's unfortunate that we're not seeing the teams match up and play the best against the best. I think that's unfortunate, but I just don't know how you avoid it.
Stan, if the Nets are healthy, do they win the title?
They would have been hard to beat. I mean, they had the most talent. So, now whether they win the title,
them or the Lakers, I guess, right?
Yeah, you never know. And the Lakers weren't healthy. I mean, like, who was healthy? That's the thing. The Clippers aren't healthy.
The Suns.
The Suns have stayed relatively healthy, other than the COVID thing with Chris Paul. I mean, but Brooklyn is immensely talented. And the thing is, with the talent they had, if they had all three of those guys, they can survive an off night by one of them every night, because you've still got those two stars. I don't know how you guard them. I honestly don't. If all three of those guys play, how do you guard them?
Do you agree with me? Because Levitor was giving me a hard time. The guys on the show agree with me when I said that Kevin Durant was being celebrated more in defeat than he ever has been in victory. Do you agree with that?
I do actually agree with that.
Boom!
I think what happened is, I don't think he actually was celebrated in victory in Golden State. First of all, people mocked him for leaving Oklahoma to join a championship team. And then, even though he was the finals MVP, the fact that he had all those guys around him, I don't think he got the respect. And then he goes to Brooklyn and everybody else gets hurt, and he's out there without Kyrie and without James Harden and getting 48 points in a game 7. Yeah, I think that the respect for him, at least from a fan's perspective and from an outside perspective, certainly grew this year beyond anything people felt for him in Golden State.
All right, 2 quick ones. We'll get you out of here. Scottie Pippen on the Dan Patrick Show. Now, listen, Dan and I had Scottie Pippen on our show a week before Dan Patrick did, and all we did was drink whiskey with him, okay? We got nothing out of him, okay? But you know our shows, Dan. And then Dan Patrick had him on, and Dan Patrick somehow got to a place where Scottie Pippen called Phil Jackson racist. Then we had Dan Patrick on to make fun of us, okay? Because he's a lot better at this than we are. But I digress, Dan. Your thoughts on Scottie Pippen saying that Phil Jackson is racist?
Yeah, I was disappointed to hear that. Obviously, I can't comment on whether Phil is or isn't. I haven't been around Phil. It just, Scottie Pippen to me over the last few years has seemed like desperate for attention. And that has disappointed me, because the guy was a great player, and he seems to be now saying more and more provocative things. It almost seems like an attempt to be relevant. And I think that's sort of sad, because he's relevant for what he did in this league, and that should be enough. But I didn't think his criticisms of Kevin Durant were very fair. Right. And then the stuff on Phil, like, if you had those things to say, like, why now?
Right.
And what ended up happening is Kevin Durant made the point about him at the end of the game in '94. And so, to defend himself, he came back with Phil's a racist. Like, Phil Jackson wasn't part of this debate at all. It was Kevin Durant and Scottie Pippen, and he tried to call out Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant came back at him about that incident, and then he came back with, I was disrespected. In fact, it was because Phil was a racist, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, where did this come from? And if Scottie really felt that, why didn't it come out when he was playing for him? Why didn't it come up before this? Why didn't it come up when they were doing The Last Dance? Why, like, where is this all coming from? I just thought it was
from bourbon.
Yeah, well, and I thought it was sad. And I've always thought when people like years later go after guys they played with, or coaches go after people who played for them, that always disappoints me, because you may not like everybody you're involved with, but people come together as a team, and there's a little bit of or should be a bond and keeping things in the locker room. And it's one thing when it's happening, but years later to just come out and rip the guy, and that's a pretty serious charge, and he's coming up with it, almost 30 years later. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Kind of strange. We'll get to the poll questions just a second. Mike and I are both, I'm a Knick fan. Mikey A is a huge Knick fan as well. You're very friendly. You love Tom Thibodeau. Mikey A and I think that they should erect a statue of Tom Thibodeau in front of Madison Square Garden simply for making them normal. Do you agree?
Well, they did a great job. I'm not sure anybody exceeded expectations more than they did. And it was Tom's type of team. He just got a lot of tough guys to get in there and play well. And then they weren't a particularly great offensive team. He got a great year out of Julius Randle. And then they were the normal, hard-nosed, tough defensive team that would compete every night. And he went and got veteran guys. I mean, these teams that want to play with nothing but young guys, it's tough. I mean, they went Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson and, Reggie Bullock's been around. And, I mean, they went and got older guys. It's Tom's type of team. They did a great job. And give their front office a lot of credit, because they let Tom build the team in the image that he wanted. Now their challenge becomes greater, as you know. I mean, it's one thing to take the step from bad to decent, but to rise above that now, it's hard, because you got to find a way to build a better roster, and that's not going to be easy. And for them, as they acquire more talent, can they acquire more talent that also fits with Tom's defensive mentality and toughness and the way they want to play? So it's not going to be easy for Leon Rose going forward. But I know Knick fans are really, really, really excited.
Yeah, excited that we're not an embarrassment. And back to our earlier point, just stay with Tom. Like, give him like 5, 6, 7, 8 years to play. Yes.
And I think he has a good relationship with Leon. Leon used to be his agent.
Sure.
And so I think they've got a chance to stay the course, even if there's some ups and downs. And if they do, it'll all work.
All right, Mikey, get him out of here with a couple of poll questions here. He loves the Le Batard show. I'm going to make a pitch to have him come back and work for us in a second here. I mean, he's just laying around in a bed. But anyway, Mike, give him a couple of poll questions.
Let's stay where we were at. Does Thibodeau want to sign a defensive tackle?
I was making the point on the show to Dan that Thibodeau begrudgingly said that we're going to, we have to improve the offense and we'll look at some shooters here. He doesn't really want to do that. He wants to sign a Lodi Nata. I mean, that's what he wants to do.
That's a great point. I'll go with a yes on that.
Yeah, let's go ahead, Mike. Dan. Mike, what are you laughing at? Thim's does. He wants 5 nose tackles on the floor, man.
Oh, God, yeah, he would. If some of those guys are free agents, if he could get Aaron Donald or McDonald or somebody, they fit very well with Tom's mentality.
Stan, do you trust expiration dates?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I'm not going to mess. But it depends on what it is. But on almost all foods, yeah, like I'm going to trust. If it's mustard or something, no big deal. But milk, meat, stuff like that, yeah, I'm not messing with expiration dates.
We were discussing milk, and this should not shock you at all because our entire show. Chris Cody said he will always drink milk a couple of days after the expiration.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me, but man, I mean, do not mess with expiration.
I'm with you.
Is the grocery store a prankster's delight?
I've never thought about that. I guess it could be, but I've never looked at it that way.
Okay, that was Billy's observation. He's a little quirky. Go ahead, Mike. A couple more.
Is Fairlife chocolate milk the most underrated thing in the drink category?
Have you had Fairlife chocolate milk, Stan?
I have not. I was just going to say I can't comment on that. Is it that good?
It is that good. All right, just go try it, and the next time we'll have you on.
I love chocolate milk. We're probably going to the store today, so I might have to try some.
All right, try it out. Mike, you got one more for him?
Is Stugotz lying when he says that's all I got?
You should have just stopped it at Stugotz lying.
I was just going to say, you didn't even need to add the end to that. Is Stugotz lying? Well, is he talking?
Let's leave it right there.